In 3, 2, 1. Okay, welcome back. Let's get this here. I don't know why. Why can't we see this? Window capture properties. Okay. Let's do that one. Okay, there we go. And yeah, that's fine. Okay. Deep breath. Deep breath. So annoying. Today is annoying. It just is. Today is just an annoying day. I don't know what to do about annoying days other than scream. Good God. Alright. If Jack had her druthers, she'd had never left the bowels of the engineering deck. There were just too many Cerberus peons on the other decks. Shepard might be okay, but the rest of them would sell me out without a second thought. Not that they'd be able to actually stop her, but flinging half the crew out of the airlock was probably only something she should do as a last resort. Unfortunately for Jack, nature called. There was no bathroom on the engineering deck. That had to be found on deck 3, and while she had not initially needed to use the bathroom, her body was still feeling the after effects of cryo. That had finally changed. She had tried to resist, but now her bladder felt like it was going to burst. After a brief consideration of picking a dark corner in her area to relieve herself, Jack gave in to the inevitability. She'd have to leave engineering. A bit of apprehension welled up within her as her boots hit the metal stairs. Why am I nervous? The only fucker on the ship who can maybe stop me is on a mission. What the hell do I have to worry about? The answer was nothing at first. There was no one milling around the engineering deck while she waited for the elevator, nor was there anyone on the elevator. So far, so good. The women's restroom was right off the elevator. That made it simple to get there without being seen. The bathroom was thankfully empty too. Jack could get in and out unnoticed. She made her pit stop quickly, then headed to the sink to wash her hands. But as she looked at her reflection in the mirror, her heart began to race. Her mind was dragging her back to the prison ship, to that time. Staring in the mirror, washing hands, sudden pain in the head, grabbed, unable to focus biotics, held down while a needle is shoved in her arm. Her body limbs turn to jelly, her mind falls into a haze, but not too hazy to remember who they are. Their faces as they took turns. Prisoners, guards. Jack struggled against the memory. Her body burned. Her breathing became rushed and labored. The blue aura from her biotics surrounded her. Crying, weakness, never again. She got them back, each and every one of them. They had begged her to stop, just like she had them. And just like them, she didn't listen. They bled, they suffered, they whimpered, they died. Painfully, pitifully. Not like her. Not like me ever again. And she had gotten thrown into cryo as a result. Are you all right, my dear? Jack suddenly snapped back to reality. There were no prisoners, no guards. She wasn't even standing any longer. She felt the cold floor beneath her, and above her was an older woman with a kind face and a look of concern upon it. Yeah, Jack said as she brought her hand to her face. Having flashbacks was never a good thing. It was even worse when she was surrounded by people who could stab her in the back at any moment. "Are you certain?" the woman asked. I've seen enough glazed looks in people's eyes to know when something is not right. If she were on balance and in her element, Jack would have snapped at her. But she was still uneasy, and the best she could manage was, "What, are you a fucking doctor or something?" "I am, in fact," the woman said. "I don't believe we've been introduced. Dr. Karen Chakwas. I oversee most medical matters on this vessel, as I did for the first Normandy." First Normandy? Jack had no idea what that was about. "Whatever, lady. I'm fine. I don't need any Cerberus doctor looking at me. Those days are gone." "Well, for what it's worth, I'm not here for Cerberus," Dr. Chakwas said. "I'm here for Shepard. Technically, I'm still a member of the Alliance." "Good for fucking you," Jack said as she got back to her feet. "You're still in Cerberus colors, so no, I'm fine." "Well, if you change your mind, my dear," the doctor said, "I'll be in the medical bay." Jack wasn't about to do that. Her brain exploding was preferable to letting any Cerberus doctor look at her. "Oh, and if you don't wish to have me look at you," Chakwas continued, "you could visit Morden Solus on deck 2. He's a Solarian who ran a clinic on Omega before being recruited for this mission. He's certainly not Cerberus." Jack's brow arched. Cerberus recruited a Solarian? "And a Turian," Chakwas added. "This isn't your typical mission, but then it rarely is when Shepard is involved." This situation was getting weirder and weirder. Aliens aboard a Cerberus ship? What the hell is going on here? Uncertain and uneasy, Jack was ready to make her escape to engineering again. The path was clear, and the elevator was already waiting for her. But then she stopped dead in her tracks as her nose picked up something it hadn't in a while. Food. Even before Jack ended up in cryo, she hadn't smelled real food since ending up on purgatory. What the prisoners got was some sort of nutrient paste or gruel. If there was a smell, it was faint. Medicine-like aroma that was far from appetizing. This actually smelled like food. In fact, she could practically taste it, and Jack's body reacted. Her mouth watered, her stomach grumbled, and then roared. Finally, a sharp pain in her stomach caused her to nearly double over. Fuck. Normally, if she was going to exert her biotics like she did on Purgatory, she'd have been well fed. But she had been functioning off reserves, and those had been low due to the crappy food she had been getting. It was part of the reason she ended up with a severe headache. Her body had loaned her adrenaline to get her through, and now her body demanded repayment. As tempting as it was to retreat to engineering, Jack knew it would be torture, and a pointless one at that. She had to eat eventually. Ending her resistance, she made a quick dash over to the small cafeteria. At the electric stove was an older man. He was bald, and given the hair on the side of his head, it wasn't by choice. "Well, howdy there," the man said. "Aren't you a colorful one?" "Yeah, I'm just fucking sunshine and roses," Jack told him. "What you got to eat?" "Got a calamari gumbo," the man said. "It's an old Asari recipe. Seems a bit like cannibalism to me, but who am I to judge?" Making small talk while he dished her out the bowl, Jack didn't care as long as she got food. She might have normally returned to engineering to eat, but there was no way she could stomach waiting any longer. Rushing to an empty table, she practically inhaled the meal, gulping down the liquid like it was water and gleefully chomping down on the squid. Holy shit, that's good. It may not have been, but as the first real meal she'd had in months, would have had to have been literal dog shit for Jack not to enjoy it. "Holy crap, Rupert," a man shouted. "You finally found someone who likes your slop. It's a Christmas miracle." It's about time Shepard found some people with actual taste, Rupert replied. Oh yeah, the man said as he eyed Jack. Definitely lots of taste with her. Jack's head popped up, her gaze fixed on the man. Say that again and see what happens to you, fucker. The crew member turned white, though that probably had something to do with the fact that Jack was levitating a chair opposite her. Not willing to chance it, the man flew back to the crew quarters. My tongue is too fat for these words. Jack wasn't about to waste her time chasing him. Instead, she finished her bowl and went for seconds. Nice job putting Hawthorne in his place, Rupert said. He's always got something to say about the food. Well, fuck him then, Jack said. Hit me again, Rupert. I need more of that shit. Sure thing, little lady, Rupert replied. Jack eyed him for a moment. She didn't know if she'd ever been called a lady before. She also doubted its accuracy, but she didn't snap at Rupert. He's all right. For a low-level Cerberus lackey, anyway. Jack returned to the table, ready to down another bowl. This time, however, she noticed more eyes on her. Most of the crew members had never seen her before, and Jack couldn't help but draw stares. From her dress, or lack thereof, with just leather straps for a top complete with loose pants and boots down below, her body worth of tattoos and her shaved head. But even if it was normal, she didn't care for it, especially since they were all Cerberus. But she did see a different face approach her, a face that was damaged, scarred from what she had assumed was a bad wound to it. Part of the area was still bandaged. What really stood out to her, however, was that the individual was not human, but a Turian. This must have been the guy mentioned by the older woman earlier. You want something, bird boy? She asked. Bird boy, he replied. I haven't heard that since my days at CSEC. He's a cop. Just great. Allow me to introduce myself, he said. Garrus Vicarian. We met briefly when we were escaping the prison ship. I just remember Shepard and a cheerleader, Jack told him. Couldn't tell you apart from the scores of other Turians I tossed aside while escaping. Well, it's obvious, really, Garrus said. I'm the best looking. Real high bar there to clear, bird boy, Jack replied. Ouch. I guess sometimes you can judge a book by its cover, Garrus replied. Jack tried hard to resist chuckling at that. Doing so nearly caused her to choke. She did cough and spit up a bit of liquid. Are you all right? Garrus asked. Yeah, Jack said as she regained her breath. So what's your deal? Didn't know Cerberus hired Turians. They don't, Garrus replied. But in my case, they made an exception. And what did you do? Jack asked. Ever hear of the outlaw Batman. Anyway. Ever hear of the outlaw Archangel on Omega? Garrus asked. That was me. Had the entirety of Omega's gangs teamed up to take me down. Jack eyed him. She heard a little of Archangel, but Jack had, for the most part, long given up on running with gangs. Whether this was actually the Archangel, it was impossible to know. But he had to be someone to get recruited by Cerberus. And why are you running with a Turian-hating organization? Jack demanded. In fairness, there's more to it than a hatred of Turians, Garrus said. They also hate Solarians, Batarians, Krogan, Vorcha, and possibly Quarians. Not sure about Asari. Do they look human enough to count? Doubt it, Jack said. But why are you here? To help an old friend, Garrus said. Shepard and I worked together to take down the rogue Spectre Sarian Aturius and stop a Reaper invasion. Reaper what? Jack asked. Oh, that's right, Garrus said. The whole Reaper thing never happened, according to some people. Garrus cleared his throat. Well, Well, the short version is giant death robots appear every 50,000 years or so to wipe out galactic civilization. We stopped their vanguard 2 years ago at the Battle of the Citadel. But they're still out there. Jack had heard of that, but being out in the Terminus systems, she knew little else besides that it had happened and the Geth were involved. But nobody mentioned anything about giant death robots, though. The only intelligent synthetic she'd ever seen was the Geth. So maybe he was talking about them? That's what the council would have you believe, Gareth said. But no, the Reapers were using the Geth. They're separate, and Shepard thinks they're using the Collectors too. So that's why I'm here, to help Shepard get to the bottom of this. That is some mess shit, Jack said. What the hell is a Collector anyway? Hell if I know, Gareth said. But Shepard saw a video of them, and that's good enough for me. Jack's brow arched. She never heard anyone speak with such reverence for anyone since her days in a cult. And a Turian speaking that way about a human? Even more insane. So what's your deal? Garrus asked. You made it quite clear that you don't like Cerberus. Why? Naturally, Jack was guarded about her past, but in this case it was an opportunity to remind her Turian comrade that no matter the front Cerberus put up, the truth was far nefarious. They raised me in a facility, Jack replied. They tortured me, trying to turn me into the ultimate biotic. I escaped, and they've been tracking me ever since. Well, I guess that explains why you weren't excited to join us then, Garrus said. But don't worry, Shepard won't let Cerberus betray you. If you're a member of his team, he'll stick by you no matter what. Now that was different. She knew one person who she could ever believe that about, and Jack didn't realize that until it was too late. Put it out of your mind. It was a fucking moron. Nobody else is that stupid. Bullshit, Jack said. Nobody's that loyal. You haven't met Shepard, Garrus said. But I'm sure you will. He always checks in with his team. That Jack expected, but she wasn't about to walk into that conversation blind. No. It was time to do some research. Thanks, bird boy, Jack told him as she got up. We'll see when he shows his face down there. I'm not holding my breath. That was a lie. She absolutely was anxiously awaiting the commander. After hearing Garrus praise him, he seemed too good to be true, and she would be ready to put him to the test. It hadn't been easy to reach the docks. Shepard, Miranda, and Zaid had been forced to blast through the entire chamber of Blue Suns of all types. Some just peppered the trio with assault rifle fire. Some tried to get close with their shotguns, though in some ways the most dangerous were pyros, who surged forward with flamethrowers powered by gas tanks on their back. But despite their danger, Miranda could easily deal with them, after Zaid or Shepard had stripped their shields, and they were using ammunition specifically made to disrupt shields. Miranda used her Omni tool and tech abilities to overload the tanks of the pyros. A violent explosion followed with the tanks still on their back. A gruesome end to be sure. Better them than me, Miranda thought, and at least it's quick. I don't think that would be quick. Explosion? I don't think that's going to be quick. Better them than me, Miranda thought, and at least it's quick. The final test had been a heavy mech. It had gotten into a dangerous position, able to continually pour fire on all three of them. They had not been able to spread out due to the constant fire, and when they came up from to return the favor, the mech launched rockets at the trio. Over a loudspeaker, Vito had been taunting Zaid the entire time. They had been fighting, and during the fight with the mech, he made it clear he was making his exit from the base. Sure enough, Zaid got reckless and tried to charge past the mech, only to get blasted by a rocket, knocking him off his feet. His shields had taken most of the blow and he was behind the metal piping, but he was still stunned and out of the fight for now. Damn it, Shepard cursed as he looked over to Miranda as the pair crouched behind some steel pipes. This just got much harder. Agreed, Miranda said. But we can't stay here. Even if we don't catch Vito, we need to take this mech down before it gets any closer. Doing what I can, Shepard said. He activated his tactical cloak, popped up and fired his sniper. Rifle at the head of the mech. It hit, but it would take more than that to take it down. The mech kept coming. It wasn't moving fast, but it could advance while firing its assault rifle arms, meaning it made steady progress. Overload will be too slow, Miranda realized. It had shields and armor, while she could deal with either. She couldn't do it quickly enough with the fire being poured on them. Then, as she glanced overhead, she noticed some fuel containers moving back and forth. Vito had activated them earlier in the fight, and as luck would have it, the mech was in perfect position to have it dropped on it. Shepard, the fuel containers, she said. Shoot them down on top of the mech. Copy that, Shepard replied. The commander reactivated his cloak. He popped up and fired, hitting the supports which held the container, but not taking them down. The cloak ended and the mech, identifying Shepard once more, unloaded its machine gun arms at the commander. But Miranda saw her chance. With the mech focused on Shepard, she rose up and fired every round in the clip of her Carnifex hand cannon pistol at the container's support. Enough hit that the container came crashing down on the mech, causing an explosion of fire, metal, and shrapnel. Miranda and Shepard ducked behind the pipes again and avoided most of the debris, with what little that got through their cover bouncing off their shields. How is Zaid? Shepard asked. He's fine, she said as she pointed toward the dock. The mercenary had gotten back to his feet and, with the way clear, hurried in pursuit, not bothering to check in with his squad mates. This idiot is going to get himself killed, Shepard said. Come on, before he walks into the Blue Sun's firing squad. Which no doubt he deserves, Miranda thought. They hurried to the dock, just in time to see Vito climb onto a gunship. Engines already running, it took off, the force knocking Miranda and Shepard both off balance. As she looked back, Miranda saw Zaid surge forward and unload his entire thermal clip, shooting at the ship as it flew off into the distance. After getting his bearings, Shepard made the walk near to Zaid, who popped his gun's thermal clip onto some nearby gasoline. You just cost me 20 years of my life, Zaid shouted as he turned his gun on Shepard. The commander, for his part, just had his pistol at the ready. Miranda scrambled to her feet, grabbed her gun, and pointed it toward Zaid. Don't try it, she warned. However, a loud explosion sent debris flying. Miranda threw up a barrier to be safe while Shepard dove out of the way. Zaid was not so fortunate, and a large chunk of metal crashed onto him. Miranda soon saw he was caught underneath it. Son of a bitch, Zaid exclaimed. Shepard still had his gun drawn, though he lowered it and asked, Zaid, are you alright? The hell do you care? Zaid spat. I'm fine. Now come on. Get me out of this shithole. We should just leave him, she mused. But she knew that went too far outside of the mission parameters. So she started toward the fallen mercenary to... Oh, my brain. So she started toward the fallen mercenary to help him get the debris off, but Shepard held out his arm to stop her. "I'm not sure I need a man like you on my ship," Shepard said. Miranda's eyes widened. Is he actually going to leave him? She was speechless, unsure of what to say or do. "If you didn't need me, Cerberus wouldn't have paid my fee," Saeed argued. "I'll do what I was paid to do. Nothing more, nothing less. Now stop screwing around. Let's go." That technically was enough for the elusive man, but she was less certain it would be for Shepard. "Not good enough. You put your own goals ahead of the mission," Shepard said as he began to walk away. "That's not the way this works." "I couldn't have said it better myself," Miranda mused. "I've survived this long watching my back," Zaid said. "No time to worry about anyone else." "You're part of a team now, Zaid," Shepard said as he walked back to him, putting the barrel of his gun just inches from the mercenary's face. "There's no way we can do this unless we're all working together. What happened here today is not acceptable." There was a silence, with just the cackling of the flames. I think it should be crackling of the flames. Miranda's heart raced. There was no way Shepard could pull this one back. Masani is too far gone, too hell-bent on revenge. But the mercenary's head dropped. "You have a point. Can't have a repeat of this on your mission. It'll get us all killed." Shepard moved over to lift the debris. Once it was off, he helped Saeed to his feet. "I'm not done with Vito, but I can put that behind me long enough to get your mission done," he said. "Good," Shepard said. "Now let's get out of here." Miranda was speechless. She practically expected a firefight between the two, but Saeed was backing down, admitting defeat. Shepard's charisma was undeniable, and his ways of turning a bad situation to his advantage far exceeded her expectations. He was valuable indeed, especially if he could be made to believe in Cerberus's gold. But that would take time. In the meantime, they had other business to focus on. So with that, she joined Shepard and helped the wounded mercenary back to the shuttle. And that is the end of that one. Favorite part, Jack's part, honestly. I did enjoy the banter between Garrus and Jack. Interesting. So we'll see what happens in the next chapter. That's really all the brain power I have today for this, because they're both kind of seeing, Jack is hearing how Shepard runs, and Miranda is seeing how he runs his crew and his mission. So again, interesting to see. Curious what's going to happen in the next chapter. Next chapter, I don't know if you label them. Let me see. Chapter index. Team building was this one. Number 3, friendly hostility. So that'll be next time. Okay. Bye. Love you, honey.